Hey, it's Dean. I'm your multi-genre music man. I'm back again. Welcome to all my Triple M family. Welcome back. If you're not a member of the Triple M family, all you gotta do is subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. Ring the bell while you're at it. That's also free. That'll let you know when new videos come out. So I did a survey the other day because I said that I was going to change my format and add in some murder mystery type shows along with the music, and there was going to be some storytelling, which I'm going to tell a story today about my life at some point today. But right now, I'm going to do another murder mystery. It's going to be by Mr. Ballin again. He tells such good stories. It's only a 20-minute, 18 minutes and 28-second video. But his stories are so good, and they're all true, and they're just so good to listen to. So I wanted, I've never heard this one before, so I figured I'd play it and we could all watch it at once. So here we go with Mr. Ballin. It's called Police Uncover a Terrifying Secret in a Family's Basement, the Daniel Laplante story.
It's often said that truth is stranger than fiction, and in today's story, that's definitely the case. If this were a work of fiction, I think that readers or viewers wouldn't really engage with it. It would seem like the author was trying too hard to make it scary and bizarre. They would just feel like, too much. This is not relatable. This is not relatable. But it's true. And if you were to look it up online, this story, you'd get dozens of resources confirming it's true. All the legitimate media outlets and blogs and police reports would all show you that this really did happen. But because it's so well documented, because it's so true, the way it's presented, if you look it up, is here's what happened. Here's the answer to the mystery. Because it was a mystery, but it was solved. They start with the solution, and then they tell you what led up to it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell this like a mystery. I'm going to tell you the strangeness first, before I reveal what ultimately happened, because there is a solution, and it's crazy and tragic, because this story I'm going to share with you today is actually the prequel to a whole host of horrible things that happened to a town. Before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, like I'm promising to do today, then you've come to the right channel, because that's all I do, and I upload 3 to 4 times a week. So if that's your deal, I would ask you to gently pulverize the like button, and then...
And if you guys want to go to his station, it's called Mr. Ballin on YouTube. You can go and watch his videos there. He has he uploads at least 2 videos a week, and he's a good guy, and he's always got good content. So
subscribe to
I highly recommend him.
Turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any of those 3 to 4 weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's
3 to 4 a week now. It used to be 2 a week. Now it's 3 or 4 a week.
In 1986, Annie and Jessica Andrews, who were teenage sisters, unfortunately lose their mother to cancer. It was a relatively abrupt death. It caught the family by surprise, and so following her death, Annie and Jessica lived full-time with their father, Brian Andrews. Now, Brian worked a lot, but with the death of his wife, he had to work even more to make sure he was bringing home enough of an income to provide for his 2 daughters. Annie and Jessica were hit very hard by the loss of their mother. They were very close with her, and with their father being gone so much, those two were left alone a lot at the house and left alone with their thoughts, and they missed their mom. And so one night when Brian was out at work, the girls decide to use a Ouija board and to try to contact their mother. And they would even admit that they didn't really expect anything to happen. They just wanted some sort of connection to their mother, who they missed terribly. So they went down in the basement, they got out the Ouija
Makes
boards,
sense.
and they have like a seance. They didn't really do much research into how to do it or what to do. They basically just started, kind of asking if their mother was here, could she give them some sign? And they have this kind of Ouija board seance, and nothing comes of it. Brian is not home for this. Their father is not home, and it's just those two. And after, a couple of hours of doing this seance, they ultimately put it away. In a way, it was kind of a cathartic experience that they got to, think about their mom really intently and kind of think maybe she could be with them right then. And in many ways, the seance was a success because it made them feel closer to their mom, even if it was just for a moment and if it was artificial. So they put the Ouija board away, and the girls go upstairs, and they're kind of having a low-key night, and ultimately decide to go to bed. Now, their father has not come home yet, so just the girls. They're used to this. This is how a lot of nights went. And as they're laying in bed, they both start hearing tapping sounds. Now, they're in separate rooms, and they heard the same tapping sounds, and in fact, Jessica would get up and come into Annie's room and say, "Hey, did you hear that tapping sound on the walls?" And Annie's like, "Yeah, I hear it too." And they're listening, and there's silence, and they hear this kind of like tapping sound in the walls. They didn't know what it was. They'd never heard it before. And the girls, again, they miss their mother so terribly, and they were basically hoping that it was their mom. They knew it couldn't be, but they were hoping it was. And so they're like, "It's Mom. Mom's trying to get in touch with us. She's making sounds to get in touch with us. It's from the seance. It must have worked." And they start asking their mother questions, like, "Are you here with us right now? And can you show yourself to us? And, you know, are you looking after us?" Just like questions that you would imagine people might ask if they thought, you know, the ghost of a loved one was in the room with them. And so it was scary, but it was also kind of reassuring that you have, you know, what they believed to be the spirit of their mother looking out for them. And when their father finally came home that night, the tapping at this point had stopped, and they rushed to tell their father about the tapping that they heard. And they were happy about it. They weren't scared about it. They were happy about it. And, you know, Brian, he's worked all day, and he's grieving the loss of his wife, and he thinks that his daughters are making it up, especially because they told him about the Ouija board, and he's just thinking to himself, you know, they're grieving. They're struggling with the loss of their mother. They're grieving. And, you know, he felt really bad for them, and he even considered that first night putting them into therapy. Not because he was upset with them or anything, but because he's like, this is a manifestation of grief. But he ultimately said, "Look, guys, just go back to bed. You know, I'm sure she's looking out for us. Go to bed. You know, we'll talk about this tomorrow." And so the girls went back to their rooms. Brian didn't think much of it. You know, he was just thinking, should I bring the girls to grief counseling, something like that. And everybody goes to bed. Now, this tapping would persist for several days. The tapping got so frequent that it actually started disturbing the girls' sleep. And every time they would yell to their father to come in and check, the tapping would stop. And so it was like kind of driving them crazy. And then when they would all leave the house during the day, in the evening, whenever, anytime the house was empty. And so they would come back to the house, and, you know, things would be moved, you know, furniture would be moved slightly out of position, some of the silverware had been moved around, just little things all over the house. And, you know, Annie and Jessica's father is quick to say, you know, "Guys, I know this is you. I know you miss your mom, and I know you want this to be real, that you want your mom to be here with us right now, but she's not. And you got to stop this whole ghost thing. You got to stop moving the furniture around. This is not helping. You know, if this continues, I am going to ask that you guys start seeing a grief counselor." And the girls were insistent that it was not them. And the fact that their father didn't believe them, and they knew it wasn't them, it put them in a really bad spot, because they felt totally alone, scared to be in their house, because now it didn't really feel like their mother. It felt like something screwing with them. And that's not something their mother would do. And so they're thinking that this is like an evil ghost that they've unlocked through that Ouija board seance. And it's now terrorizing them. And there's nothing they can do because their father doesn't believe them. And it's just consistently happening. They don't know what to do. One evening in January of 1987, the girls were together in the front room of their house. And they started hearing tapping sounds again. And so they hear this tapping sound not coming from the walls, but coming from the basement. And suddenly they feel, you know, some confidence, like they're going to go down and confront this thing. Because their father doesn't believe them. They don't know what to do, so
with a
they're
knife.
just going to face this thing head on.
One way to do
So
it.
they head right downstairs into the basement, and there's nothing.
I'd bring a gun, but
Sit
knife
down
will
there,
work.
They can't find anything. As they turn to go back upstairs, feeling a little bit silly that they're going to go fight this ghost, they notice writing in red that says, "Come find me, I'm in your closet," and they're horrified. Because now this is like confirmation that this thing is screwing with them. It's not their mother. And it's now interacted outside of just tapping. It's actually writing on the walls. And so the girls run out of the house because this feels like a threat. They felt threatened by everything that was happening before, but it was almost like the writing on the wall was a step over the line. This felt like a direct intentional threat towards the girls, kind of absolutely taunting them and scaring them. So they run out of the house. Their father was not there, he was working, and so the girls ran next door to their neighbors and said, "If we stay with you for a minute, something weird's happening in our house." They began to get into the weird writing on the walls, but didn't really go into too much detail, and the neighbor said, "We're just going to wait for your father to come home before we do anything." And so the girls stay with the neighbor. Brian comes home. As soon as they see Brian pull in the driveway, they flag him down. He comes over to the neighbors. Neighbor pulls Brian aside and says, "Here's what happened. They came over here." The girls are hysterical, and they tell their dad that there's writing inside the house. And so Brian, his first reaction is, "This is out of control now, guys. This is too much." He goes over though with them to the house, and he goes into the basement and he sees the writing on the wall, and his thought is like, now you guys are defacing our property to live out this kind of fantasy. And so this for him was the line in the sand that they've now crossed. It's now getting totally unhealthy, and he ordered them to go seek grief counseling. So that actually began at this point. Several weeks would go by with no tapping, no anything, just silence in the house. It was almost like whatever this was had stopped. Then, one night, when Brian is working late into the night once again and the girls are alone, they're in the front room together and they're just sitting there. It's been nice having a couple weeks without any strangeness in the house, and they start hearing tapping from somewhere else in the house. And they get up, they kind of creep their way over to where they think they're hearing it, and it's coming from Annie's bedroom. When they go into Annie's bedroom, written on the walls is, "I'm back, find me if you can." Just like the last time they saw writing on the wall, they run out of the house. They flee the house, they go to the same neighbor's house, and they say, "It happened again. You gotta believe me, it happened again." The neighbor says, "Stay with me, we'll wait for your father again." Father comes home, same situation plays out. He gets flagged over to the neighbor's house, the neighbor says, "Hey, they're back again," with the writing on the wall. And Brian's mad. And he says to the girls, like, "I put you in counseling, I'm telling you to stop doing this, like, this isn't okay, it's not healthy." And he tells the girls and the neighbor to stay here. I'm going to go in that house and I'm going to search the house top to bottom to show you that there's nothing to be afraid of in that house. So he goes back to his own house, and when he opens the door, the house is in total disarray. It's like someone had ransacked the house. And he's thinking to himself, the girls didn't do this. Someone else did this. And so now he's on edge. And he walks through the house, he's not hearing anything, and he goes up to Annie's bedroom, and he sees the writing on the wall. And then he looks, he sees a man standing in the closet wearing women's clothes, which would turn out to be his dead wife's clothes, wearing a wig, carrying a hatchet. And this man in a dress is staring at Brian, and Brian's startled. The guy starts running out. Brian tries to grapple and fight with him, but the man in the dress manages to run past Brian out into the rest of the house. Brian is like so caught off guard because this guy's got a hatchet. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He starts chasing after him, but the guy's gone. Brian's looking in his house, but finally Brian just leaves the house because this guy's got a hatchet. He runs outside, he runs over to his neighbor's house, and he's like, "Call 911, there's somebody in the house." He makes sure his girls are okay, he stays with his neighbor, calls the police. The police go in, and they look everywhere, and they can't find anything. And they say to Brian, like, "I'm sure someone was here. It's a very convincing story you just told, but they're not here now. And unfortunately, all we can do is tell you, you probably should not be here right now until whoever this was is caught. And you should stay with some relatives. We'll watch the house. We'll see if anybody else comes back, but there's not much we can do." And so, unfortunately, the girls and the father are left with no answer to what was going on or who this person was. And Brian's thinking to himself, like, how did he get away? How did this guy in the dress get away? Like, how did that happen? I mean, they're searching the neighborhood. He's wearing a pretty distinctive outfit. How did he get away? And so for 2 weeks, Brian and his daughter stayed with some family. But in those 2 weeks, no one found out who this guy in the dress was. I mean, Brian and the girls are traumatized. Brian feels like this horrible father, that I've left my girls alone in the house over and over and over again with some crazy person with an axe in my house. I never believed them. What could have happened to them? It would have been my fault. And so it's a horrible time period. The girls are traumatized because now they realize they've been interacting with some crazy person in a dress with an axe in their walls. And it's just this horrible situation. But after 2 weeks, it's tough living with another family member. It's a tight place they're staying. And they decide, you know what?
Sounds like they're in a small town. That was a lot of cruises. There was like 10 or 15 cruises there for that one town. That's a lot of cruises.
At this point, whoever that guy was, he must have ran away. We got police watching the house. Let's just go home. Let's just go home. We'll lock everything up. We'll get a security system. There's police watching the house. Let's just go home. And so they decide, okay, let's pack up and head home. And so as Brian is driving up his street, he looks at his house and he can see that there's a light on in the second floor. And he's thinking to himself, like, I thought the police were just watching it from the outside and just kind of patrolling the neighborhood. I didn't know there'd be police inside the house. And as he's looking up at the window, about to pull into his driveway, he sees the guy in the dress suddenly walk across the window. He sees him clear as day. So he stops what he's doing and he calls the police. Police are there in a second. The house is surrounded. So with the house surrounded, police finally go inside. Now, no one's been inside the house since Brian and the girls left. They locked it up and they were monitoring it. There was no police inside the house. There was nobody inside the house, supposedly. The police, when they open up the door and go inside, the first thing they notice is not only is all the furniture flipped upside down and moved all over the place, but there are pennies glued to the ceiling. All these pennies glued to the ceiling. And there's red writing all over the house. On all the walls and weird places, just writing, strange cryptic writing. But they search the house and they don't find anything. But one of the officers who was down in the basement at one point noticed that there was a little piece of wood covering up what looked like a crawl space behind the washer and dryer. And he found that he could very easily move aside the washer and the dryer, and there was this board that when he pulled it aside, it was the entrance to a crawl space. In the crawl space, they find that someone had kind of burrowed between all of the insulation all around the house into all the walls, and there are these little peepholes in all the different rooms that whoever was in the crawl space could look into any room at any given time. And as they're searching this intricate crawl space that spanned the whole house, they find Daniel Laplante, who was this totally deranged teenager who had briefly dated Annie. Annie had broken it off with him, and so he had snuck into their house and had been living in their walls, listening to their conversations, had heard about Annie's mother passing away, and had kind of adopted this "I'm gonna pretend to be your dead mother" routine, and had been writing in ketchup on the walls and tapping it. He had watched them do the seance, and so he had all this stuff to work with to really spook them, and had been sneaking out and moving furniture around and sneaking back into the walls for months. And that's not even the worst of it. Daniel Laplante, after he was brought out of the crawl space, was arrested and put into a juvenile detention center. And then when he got out of the detention center, later in 1987, for reasons that no one understands, I don't even think Danny understands, he broke into someone's house and murdered almost an entire family in cold blood. I don't know about you guys, but the idea of somebody living in my walls for 2 months, doing anything, is horrifying, let alone being Danny Laplante, the psychopath that he was. But what really trips me out is when the police went in that second term when they had the house surrounded, and they find pennies glued to the ceiling and writing on the wall, and then they find him in this intricate crawl space. Like, that's straight out of a horror movie that wouldn't be scary because it's just too many weird elements. But it happened. And I just think about the trauma that the Andrews family undoubtedly has suffered, not only the loss of their wife, their mother, but imagining what could have happened to them, because Danny would go on to murder almost an entire family. Just as easily could have been them. And so I would imagine I'd be shocked if they ever got over it. That's a deep-seated trauma that I can only hope that they were able to recover from. If you enjoyed this story and you want more content like this, if you would, please gently pulverize the like button, and then also subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss my weekly 3 to 4 video uploads. If you want to get in touch with me, message me on Instagram. My handle is JohnBallin416. I'm also very active on TikTok. My handle is Mr. Ballin, same as my YouTube channel. and I go live 3-4 times a week on TikTok as well. So I hope to read your comments and see you on other platforms. And until next time, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much. Take care.
There you go. That's look, I can go back here.
It's often said that truth.
That's called the police uncover terrifying secret in family's basement: the Daniel Laplante story by Mr. Ballin. If you want to go on his website, it's Mr. Ballin. It's hashtag Mr. Ballin is how you find it on YouTube, and you can watch more of his videos. I'm going to have some more of his videos up very soon. I really like this guy. He tells the story really well. And I did a survey poll, and you guys said you wanted to see more of this, so I'm going to start doing more of this. And I'm also going to do some life stories of my own, some things that have happened to me in my life that I'm going to talk about that are unusual things that have happened that don't usually happen to most people. Kind of weird stories I'm going to be telling on my own. I'm going to probably start doing that today. Otherwise, please hit the like button, share on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, subscribe, hit the bell. If you have any comments, you can leave a comment below, question below, or even a hashtag of a video you want to see me do a review on. It could be one of these guys, or it could be a song, anything you want. And I will do my best to get it out same day or the next day. If you want to make a deposit or a donation, to my account, you can go into the comments below, and it will explain how to do it through Patreon, PayPal, pretty much all the ones that are out there. You can do it through there, and that's about it. This is Dean saying have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed the show, and have a nice day. I'll see you on the next video. This is Dean saying have a great day. Over and out.